The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke and the bitter tang of fear. A cacophony of shouts and cries reverberated through the oppressive fog of war, where the thunder of artillery shells echoed in the distance, punctuated by the crackle of rifle fire. It was June 6, 1944, and below the jagged cliffs of Normandy, the Allied forces launched the largest amphibious invasion in history, but for many, it felt like they were walking into a living hell. Among the throng of soldiers was Private Arthur Art Dawson, a 19-year-old from a small town in Ohio. Just weeks prior, he had kissed his mother goodbye, a lump in his throat and trepidation knotting his stomach. The high school football games, summer evenings spent by the lake, and whispers of a future beyond the war had crystallized into wholesome memories that now felt like distant dreams. He was an average kid, eager to prove himself, stoked by the need to escape a life of mundanity and, above all, the desire to protect his country. As the landing craft sliced through the choppy sea, the roar of waves contrasted sharply with the distant sounds of gunfire. Art squinted through the stinging spray, trying to discern the looming shapes of the beach that awaited him, the codes of Omaha Beach long imprinted in his mind. Images of valor danced through his thoughts, riddled with nightmares of what was yet to come. The deeper into the churning waters they edged, the louder his own heartbeat resonated in his ears. "Get ready," shouted the sergeant, his voice cutting through the din. For Art, every fiber of his being screamed at him to run, to hide. But duty drove him forward, just like it had every soldier crammed into that vessel, muscles tense, fists clenched around their weapons. As the ramp dropped with a crash, a violent swell of water surged up, swallowing the feet of men as they tumbled onto the unforgiving shore. The sun hung low in the sky, the bright yellow light an eerie contrast to the unfolding chaos. As the fine grains of sand collided with his boots, Art felt a surge of adrenaline. He pushed forward, instinctively reacting to the screams and the chaos around him. "Stay low, move," the orders echoed. The world felt surreal, a whirlpool of images flashing before him, faces of his fellow soldiers, the debris of battle, the harsh chirping of machine guns. Before he could fully comprehend it, the beachfront erupted into horror. Explosions bloomed along the sand, vibrant bursts of orange and red erupting amid the drab colors of war. The ground quaked beneath him as mortar rounds found their marks, scattering men like leaves in a storm. Art stumbled to the ground, crawling forward, his heart pounding in his chest like a war drum, each beat demanding that he press on. Through the cacophony of violence, he screamed in desperation for his comrades, his voice lost to the deafening reality of battle. He saw his friend, Private Will Thompson, lying in a bloodied heap just a few yards away, his face twisted in pain. The instinct to help surged through Art's veins like ice. He had to do something. His feet clawed at the sand as he lurched towards Will, whose body had been struck down amidst the onslaught of bullets. "Will," Art cried, hoarseness choking his voice. As if in response, the ground beneath them shuddered violently, causing him to stumble. Just a moment ago, they had been sharing laughter and camaraderie. Now it felt as though fate had rewritten their destinies in crimson ink. The courage to save his friend felt like a lion's share of heroism, but the fear struck him dumb. Each pulse of pain from Will's body was reflected in Art's heart. "Get to cover," another soldier yelled, urging Art. But he couldn't leave. He just couldn't. Yet he felt utterly powerless. With a fierce roar, Art leaned over Will, a storm of determination raging within him. "Hey, stay with me. Help's on the way." Desperate words that felt cheap against the stark reality. He could feel the weight of the world upon his shoulders pressing down, threatening to crush him under the burden of sorrow and hopelessness. Will's eyes fluttered open. The fear was a haunting specter lurking just beneath the surface. "Art, I can't," he muttered, blood pooling around him like a merciless tide. Art's heart shattered with the sound, pain mixed with utter helplessness. "Don't you dare say that. You're going to be okay," he cried, knowing full well the battle was against time itself. He pressed a hand to Will's wound, trying to stem the flow of blood, but panic clawed at him as the chaos swirled around them. Suddenly, a piercing whistle broke through the fog of despair as an artillery shell landed nearby, sending them both hurling into the air. Art braced for impact, the world fading to black as he slammed against the unforgiving ground. The cacophony of war dimmed as he fought consciousness, the sounds of battle transforming into a merciful silence. When Art finally blinked awake, the initial shocking brightness burned into his vision before falling into the outline of a med tent, bustling with activity. Struggling to comprehend where he was, tedious realization began to seep in. He was alive, but where was Will? Panic set in anew as he grappled with memory. The moment of courage swirled with the weight of loss. "Private Dawson," a medic shouted, rushing over with a look of frantic determination. "You're all right. We're taking care of you. Just stay with me." "What about the others?" His voice was hoarse, the remnants of a once talented athlete diluted into pallor and exhaustion. "Will Thompson, focus on yourself, son. We'll deal with the others. You need to rest. I've got you." Days melded into a grotesque blur of shouts, medics hustling, men dying. The days of violent chaos after the beach landing faded into a grim rhythm of survival. Art had weathered the storm, lost amidst the tide, yet he lay haunted by the faces of those he could not save. In the throes of desperation, surrounded by doctors and nurses, working tirelessly to salvage what they could from the fallen, the memories of Will remained rooted in his thoughts, each rhythm of the earth echoing with loss. As he convalesced, Art felt the wounds of war etched deep within him, not just the physical scars, but the wounds that dug into his soul. Whispers of cries interwoven with memories refused to fade. He wondered what it meant to be alive when death loomed so close, threatening to smother the very fabric of humanity. The world beyond his tent felt stifling and distant, yet he knew he had to rejoin his comrades to carry the weight of their sacrifice in honor of those lost. A few days later, with blood still scabbing over old wounds, Art met with Sergeant Barnes, who had fought bravely on that fateful day. They had seen friends seized by death and vanished into the night without a goodbye. "You're back, Private," Barnes declared, though the weariness in his tone betrayed an emotional toll. "You're needed out there." It felt like returning to the jaws of oblivion, but Art squared his shoulders. He had a job to do. The atmosphere on the front lines pulsed with tension as the push inland continued, the Normandy coast still marred by the remnants of war. Each day, Art and his unit maneuvered through the maze of hedgerows, avoiding the indignities of botched ambushes and grasps of the enemy. The stench of smoke hung in the air, a constant reminder of the war above their heads as battles raged in valleys beyond them. It was an unyielding struggle, men grappling with not only the enemy before them but the specters of their companions who had disappeared in the ocean of war. Then came the order that put Art and his squad in the crosshairs of danger once more. In the sweeping valley of Carentan, a small town known for harbors and trains, they were to launch an assault against the German forces that had dug in to fortify their position. On paper it seemed like just another mission, but the weight of history loomed over it, pressing down with suffocating suspense. As they crested a hill, Art marveled at the quaintness of the town below. That charm felt haunting as well, casting shadows over his thoughts, reminding him of the innocence that was about to be shattered. He felt an insatiable sorrow for the people who resided in the town, innocent peasants caught in the indifference of a conflict they never asked for, but which had come crashing down upon them, seeping into their lives with stolen joy. "All right, men, let's keep our heads on right," Barnes barked, surveying his soldiers with steely determination. "We push towards the old railway station. We need to cut off their supply lines. That's our priority." Art's heart raced. Thoughts of defending the lives of many weighed heavily on him now. A quick glance at the faces of his comrades revealed the same mix of determination and dread. They were brothers, forged in the fires of conflict, yet haunted by memories of those they had lost. The assault began with the sudden crack of rifle fire aimed at the German lines entrenched beyond the shrubbery. The sound reverberated through the ranks, a clear signal that adrenaline was about to spike. Art threw himself into the fray with his squad, the world exploding around him as bullets sang past. He darted forward, adrenaline fueling his muscles as he fought, indistinguishable from the soldiers around him as the essence of survival mingled with the pervasive fear clawing at his resolve. "Keep moving. Push forward," he heard his sergeant's voice, but clarity wavered between the screams and the relentless pops of gunfire. As they breached the edge of the town, they spotted the German stronghold lining the railway tracks, trenched within makeshift barricades. The sight ignited the fire of determination within Art. He was fighting not just for freedom, but for the ghosts that lingered in his memories. With determination threading through panic, Art squeezed the trigger of his rifle. The sudden jolt of recoil felt like freedom, the weight of control handcuffed by high stakes. The adrenaline pulsed through him, edging him closer to that primal instinct to survive, to defend, to protect. A fearsome blend of bravery surged in his heart as he melded into the assault, working as part of a collective force aiming for liberation. Then came the turning point. As Art and his fellow soldiers pushed closer to their target, a burst of machine gun fire erupted, a torrent of lead that pinned them down. It was a moment steeped in chaos. The world narrowed into a kaleidoscope of danger and destruction. He heard the cries of men around him, fellow soldiers who shared the burden of combat, yet cried out in the throes of fear, suppressing fire. Art heard someone shout as he instinctively ducked down, his body colliding with the ground. He was in the belly of the beast, surrounded by friends but cloaked within a cocoon of uncertainty. That primal instinct dictated every motion, every breath.
With a fierce will, Art moved to the right flank to protect another pair of soldiers who'd been pinned down. Keeping low, he engaged the enemy, squeezing the trigger with precision honed from hours of training, propelling himself forward as he sought to neutralize the threat that loomed ahead. Every squeeze of the trigger added fuel to a fire that burned deeply within him, the instinct to preserve life alongside the horrific knowledge of what came with taking it. He switched lanes, darting among the ruins of war, debris exploding like whispers of the past, lacing around experiences he couldn't afford to forget. As combat unfolded, he took a brief second to swipe sweat from his brow, feeling distinctly human in a clash defined by survival. Then, in a heartbeat, amidst the seething turmoil, Art encountered a German soldier who lay exposed, just across the way. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Art could sense the very essence of war reflected back at him. A glimpse of fear mirrored his own. In that split second, he had a choice. He felt the essence of loss and anguish pour through him, yet left a question poised in the air, the humanity within enemies, in this tempest of chaos. But in the dance of combat, hesitation could cost him everything. With a resolute exhale, he broke away and pulled the trigger, the gun firing with a muffled pop, a grim determination overtaking doubt. It was done, but the weight of each life taken hung heavy on him. Their advance became a steady drumbeat of valor and chaos, fueled by fervent cries and ringing bursts of gunfire. Art and his comrades surged forward, minds incensed with the collective goal of victory, salvation from a world marred by war. They pushed past the town's perimeter, down to the railway, as the cries of triumph melded with the silence that followed the storm of lead. The skirmish faded into a breathless expanse, lying side by side with the acceptance of loss mingled with fleeting victory. The ability to rejoice felt racked with agony, the stakes of their resilience realized within the hearts of all those who had fallen, as loss bore similar weight, regardless of what side of the line they stood upon. As night fell on the beleaguered town of Carentan, the weary soldiers gathered, their faces a blend of relief and grief, a circle écarré, filled with the weight of survival. Art let the reality wash over him in solemn waves. They had fought valiantly, thwarting the enemy, persevering through the clashing storms of combat. Their unit was forever changed, haunted not just by visible scars, but the invisible wounds etched into memory. In the twilight, Art stood apart from his comrades, searching for solace in the stars above, witnessing how history would record their struggle. The world remained unchanged, but within the battle-scarred boy who now stood a man, the specters of the fallen seeped through. He couldn't shake the loss of will, the myriad of faces flickering through his mind, the laughter, the bond of friendship marred by tragedy. Would he ever escape their haunting? Art took a step away, looking out into the horizon, the stars twinkling down. As soldiers shared stories of valor and courage around him, he felt a connection to the future, a glimmer of hope. Yet he carried the burden of survival alone, the echoes of their sacrifices painted in every breath. He understood there would be no grand resolution to their struggle. Victories and losses would intertwine like the fragile threads of fate, each moment echoing in the collective heart of humanity. In that noise of presence inked against the brilliance of stars, he understood that honor lay within their stories, the memories etched into the fabric of existence. And while the Battle of Carentan marked another page in history, it became a moment that rippled through Art's life, the bravery mirrored through those who stood beside him, tempered in the fires of war. As he turned back towards the soft flickers of dying campfires, Art Dawson knew that while the world might shift, their stories would remain alive forever, woven into the collective consciousness where both hope and despair resided, entwined in harmony, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.